my name is Jennifer Vermillion. I teach at Oak Grove High School, which is in San Jose, California. And please forgive me because I did not attend the very celebrated Joe Roach's seminar on rhetoric. Instead, I was in the enviable position actually of attending the same seminar Rodney was in, which is Understanding History and Society Through Images. And that was 1776 to 1914 was the focus of our studies. And we looked at really just trying to look at images and thereby gain knowledge about the society and culture that created it. And the thing I think that was most important for me as a takeaway from that experience was actually Tim's approach. The idea of a seminar leader who made somebody who is not an artist, who never took any art classes that they can recall in their entire lifetime, feel incredibly very comfortable approaching a piece of art. He has this really great teaching style that's so engaging. You feel so comfortable giving your opinion and having this dialogue, and there's no use of jargon. There's no need for us to learn that. And I thought, well, that's what I want to take back to my students. So I looked at this NEA study, and it said that underprivileged students essentially really benefit from being involved in the arts. They have higher test scores, they have better career goals, and they have more civic engagement. And I thought, okay, so this is important to me as an English teacher to bring art into my classroom. But how do I do that? I can't draw. I do stick figures people make fun of when I'm trying to show them, like, this is not good. And so what I decided I wanted to do was really focus on pairing literature with artwork, because I already noticed I had some themes going on in my work. And so I wanted to specifically approach students who are these apathetic students in my class that aren't highly engaged. And I also wanted to approach my students who they really want so badly to do well, but they don't have the skills. They just do not have the appropriate academic language to be successful. And I thought, okay, well, we're gonna work on this. So I created a unit that sounds super sexy. It's called Civil Disobedience in Images. It's really not all that exciting, but for those of you who don't know, the idea of civil disobedience is the idea that you would deliberately not follow a law because you felt that you had a violation of some higher principle or law that you followed. And so I noticed that this theme went through a lot of the literature that I already taught. For example, Antigone demands to bury her brother's body. She does it behind the king's back, even though she knows it's against the law with a punishment of death. Similarly, I do a rhetorical analysis already of Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail. And so I thought, well, this seems like a very natural pairing. What can I do? And so I started bringing images into the classroom, and we started with a very comfortable approach of talking about the image as a group. And we just go through the Feldman approach, which is first you describe it, and so I'll explain that later, but it was very comfortable. And then I went ahead and I thought, well, I want to make sure that they understand that when we look at an image, we can look at it and talk about it in a way that is less scary because it's a text-free environment. And it's much less intimidating for my students to talk about things like mood and tone and protagonist and those kind of terms when they're looking at an image. So this was one of the products, and actually the idea for this came from a colleague who is an art teacher. And as an English teacher, I would normally never collaborate with the art teachers. I don't know what they do over there in that building. And my gosh, they do exactly what I need. This is an art cube, and the first thing I did was I had them cut out the template, and I said, okay, we're gonna draw the image on the top, and I put it on my smartboard, and I said, okay guys, let's do this. And they said, oh, Ms. D, yeah, I'm not doing that. We don't draw in here in this English class. I said, I'm gonna do it with you. And I did, in class with them, each different class period, I did my own version of it, and thereby engaging them because they knew I was the worst artist on the planet. And they thought, well, she can do it now. And so I'd show them, and we'd talk about ideas about how we were doing that. And we'd go through the description phase, and that's where we just look at this image and we talk about what do you see? And they would talk about it together. And then I'd say, okay, I want you to go home tonight and I want you to write it out in paragraph form. This is English class, so it has to be paragraph form. Can't be bullets, complete sentences. All right, now let's put in some sexy transitions. All right, let's put those in there, great. And then we'd move on and we'd do analysis. And this is where we talk about how the painting's put together, what artistic elements are utilized to make that happen. And that would be the next day in class, and we'd really talk about it and analyze it. And then they'd go home and they'd write out their version of it. And then we got to the most entertaining one, which is interpretation. And this is where I feel like this unit is fantastic, because this is where I ask my students for evidence from the text. I say, okay, you're looking at this image. This is Jacob Lawrence's Bar and Grill. We read Passing, which, if you don't know, is Langston Hughes' piece about how, as a half African-American, half Caucasian man, he passes as white. He pretends to be white during the era of segregation and literally walks by his own mother in the street and doesn't acknowledge her when walking with his girlfriend, because he's trying to pass as white and pursue different opportunities. And so this is a very different perspective of the same idea. That's one of the very common core things as you look at a text in different mediums. And so this is Jacob Lawrence's Bar and Grill. And in this image, my students are asked to get to the interpretation phase, and I know you can't see it. I didn't know we were going to have fancy technology, or I would have sent the image. I do apologize, but you can see it on the table later. And essentially, my students are at this point where I ask them, well, what do you think is really happening in this painting? What's going on here? And my students tell me, well, clearly all the Caucasian people are on the left side, and clearly all the African Americans are on the right. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, there's a wall separating them. And they start giving me evidence, and they start telling me, well, those Caucasian people, they're not happy. Well, how do you know? What's your evidence from the text? Well, look at their expressions, they'll tell me, or look at their body language, where they look shady. And well, what does shady mean? Well, look at him, he's got a large coat, and this one has a hat still on. And so they begin to give me evidence from the text to support their claims. And then we go ahead and we go to the judgment phase, which is another side on our cube, and they write each side. And the last judgment phase is when they tell me whether they like it or not. Now that they've really had time to analyze it, think about it, talk about it, do you like it or not, and why? And so this is an example of the type of product that I am pursuing throughout this unit. There are a lot of different levels of engagement that we've done throughout it. And this is one I'm particularly proud of, although most of you would look at it and you would probably think, you know, these sentences and the thoughts maybe aren't as high level as you would like to see from a high school student. And I look at this and I feel nothing but so much pride, because this is one of my students who, I would say I see her maybe twice a week. And she has been in America for 1 year, and her English skills are incredibly limited and it's such a struggle, and that's one of the reasons she doesn't like to come to school. And she actually came and did this entire project with me, and I'm so proud of her for that. I just feel just tremendous pride. And in terms of why am I feeling that this is a success, the other day she asked me, she said, Ms. V, when we do another painting? And I thought, success. Thank you.